Donald Trump has announced that he will veto the defense bill unless Section 230 is terminated. And my response is no, don't do that. Stop. That's a really bad idea. Terminating Section 230 will destroy independent media as we know it. It will be the end of social. Well, actually, it would be the end of Twitter. It's not all bad, huh? It would destroy like the internet as we know it. Couldn't function without 230. Now, a lot of people say to me when I bring this up, Tim, come on. You know Donald Trump is pulling off a big ask, right? You know what a big ask is, right? You should read The Art of the Deal. Basically, you ask for more than you really want, so you're in a stronger negotiating position. In this instance, many people are saying what Trump is really doing is saying terminate Section 230 or I'll veto this bill. That way they say, okay, how about we reform 230? And Trump goes, fine, you win. I'm not entirely convinced that's the case, though. The reason why I'm not sure it's a big ask or it doesn't matter if it is that the leftists, the authoritarians, and I'm not saying they're the same thing, but there's an overlap. They want Section 230 terminated. They don't like the internet. You got CNN and MSNBC and these big companies. They don't want competition. So when Trump comes out and says, I want 230 terminated, they go, no, wait, stop, Trump. Oh, no, I guess you win. Getting rid of 230 would mean that my channel couldn't exist. Well, you know, YouTube might create a special provision for people who have already made it past a certain line, but it would be the end of new channels. There would be no new commentary. And this would affect the left and the right probably more. Although leftists, for the most part, you know, like breadtube types on YouTube don't like mainstream media and left have more of an overlap than the right does. So the right really does need to have a space where they can speak and express their ideas because they're not going to make it to the likes of CNN. And what networks are there right now? Fox News? Well, there is OAN and now Newsmax, and they're growing in ratings. For the most part, the media is dominated by a leftist narrative, which means if you get rid of 230, which shields companies from liability, if a user makes a comment, the company would be responsible for everything that anyone says, and they would be sued into oblivion, and then it just wouldn't function. The gist of 230 is this. If I tweet something, you can't sue Twitter. You have to sue me because I'm the one who said it. That's a great law. It makes a ton of sense. The problem is these companies are abusing the law. When they're granted a provision in Section 230 that says they can moderate in good faith. I say get rid of, clarify the language, reform the bill so that legal speech is protected. But there's a simple solution for all of this. If Twitter doesn't like the fact that people might post, like naked women or something, which is legal and protected speech, then they just create a not safe for work category that you can turn on or off. It's really that simple. Look at it this way. Imagine you got someone saying naughty words and posting awful memes, and you're like, I don't want to see this. I don't want my kids. You just click a little button, click, and then not safe for work filter turned on, and then all those posts go away. And the worst thing that could happen is that if you break a rule, they say you're now being flagged as not safe for work. Anyone can still follow you if they choose to, but most people won't see your content. It's really that simple. You turn it on or off. This is what I think Minds.com does. If you break a rule, they don't ban you. They don't delete your content. They just put a flag on it. And people then have to click, I would like to see this. That's the best solution. The problem is when it comes to 230, people have brought this up. What if I'm like a Christian blog? And the goal of my site is to create a space where Christians can talk about their values and family values. And then if you get rid of my ability to moderate content, people can come in and post a whole bunch of really awful stuff and I can't do anything about it. So they do need to be able to moderate, but we need to be able to set certain standards. So it is a very, very difficult question as to how we solve this problem. Right now, what's happening is that the big tech companies have two things going for them. First, they're leftists and they're using this law to ban conservatives for the most part. They also ban anti-war progressives. Surprise, surprise. But conservatives get the brunt of it because, they're pro-Trump and the establishment doesn't like them. The other thing they have going for them is that by promoting these leftist activists and pushing this culture, they've got a cancel culture cudgel. So whenever a new upstart arises, Parler, for instance, they unleash the hounds and all these media companies accuse them of all this other total BS to get the company shut down and banned. And that is the biggest problem. But my friends, I believe we have shattered through the veil. Parler is now approaching normalcy. They'll try and ban it. And I definitely, we got to read the news. I'm going to rant too much, but I got to show you this, man. Some of the most incredible news I have for you is this. EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler says, starting today, you can find me and the EPA on Parler app. Follow along and join in the celebration as EPA turns 50 today. Parler now has an official government account. Now, maybe there's other official government accounts, but this is exactly what Parler needs. Bravo. I am glad to see it. I'm not saying Parler is the best platform in the world. No, it's just a platform with a different rule set that allows people to speak. And that's all that matters. If you are on Twitter and they ban, say, InfoWars, well, InfoWars is on Parler because so long as they're following the broadcast standard rules Parler has, they're allowed to be here. That's important. Now, the problem here with Parler is that it's not Parler's problem. It's the problem of social media. So long as they keep segmenting everybody into these, parallel universes, the polarization will only get worse. They say Parler has become an echo chamber. Oh, please. The left has been in an echo chamber much longer than the right has. The right knows what the left is thinking. That's just a fact. I'll give you an example. When there was a hashtag Proud Boys, when the Proud Boys came up during the debates, the left started showing a bunch of photos of homosexual men kissing and hugging and smiling together. And they were like, take that, Proud Boys. The hashtag is ours. And then conservatives started posting pictures of Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes making out with Milo Yiannopoulos, clearly not knowing what they were talking about, thinking that the Proud Boys were homophobic. It's like, nah. I had Enrique Tarrio, the chairman of the Proud Boys, on my show. And he's like, we have gay members. We don't care. Like, they don't know what they're talking about. So they're the ones in the echo chamber for the most part. They don't pay attention and they still have access. This is the craziest thing about Twitter is that conservatives are on Twitter. They're tweeting things and the left doesn't know what they're talking about. So will it matter if they move to Parler? Probably not. You may have heard that story where the book publisher employees were crying because the publisher, I think it was like, I don't name the company, but they were going to publish Jordan Peterson's book. So all these leftists started crying about it. And I'm like, they didn't even read the book. They don't even know what Jordan Peterson is talking about. Jordan Peterson is controversial in name only. He's a very tepid, moderate milquetoast guy. I can relate. Milquetoast fence sitter over here. Jordan Peterson has strong opinions, but he's a very, I got to be honest, and I mean this with the utmost respect, tepid. He's not an extremist. He's not far left, far right. He's just a guy who's like, maybe you should take some responsibility, clean up your room before you go do your thing. And it's like, that's like a very typical message of responsibility and not extreme in any capacity. But they cry about it. These people are in a bubble. They have no idea what's going on. But let's now that I've ranted quite a bit, let's see what's happening and if Trump's really going to pull off termination of 230. I really don't think so. Most people don't think so. So it might just be bluster and rhetoric. Fox News says President Trump tweeted late Tuesday that he will veto the National Defense Authorization Act unless Congress repeals Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act, which critics say unfairly shields social media platforms from liability over items posted on their platforms. These opponents have been vocal that tech behemoths like Twitter and Facebook should no longer be shielded as a neutral platform when they operate more like a publisher. The criticism seemed to reach its tipping point during the Hunter Biden scandal in the weeks prior to the election. Trump tweeted just the other day, Section 230, which is a liability shielding gift from the U.S. to big tech, the only companies in America to have it, corporate welfare, is a serious threat to our national security and election integrity. Our country can never be safe and secure if we allow it to stand. Well, we want it to stand. It just basically means people can comment. That's it. If Twitter starts editorializing, so I put out a tweet, right? And then Twitter puts a message on that tweet. That's a violation, in my opinion, of 230. If I tweet, that's on me. You can come to me for saying it. But if Twitter adds something to my tweet, well, now they've officially published. Now I think they're responsible for the content of this tweet. Plain and simple. What they're doing is they're adding tags. This is in dispute and things like this. There's two things here. When Twitter says this is, in dispute or election fraud, these claims of fraud are in dispute, that's a statement of fact. But to say something is in dispute, you can't really sue them for it. But that is their statement. Twitter said it. You can sue Twitter for what Twitter says. On my tweet, however, it's what I said. I would argue if Twitter takes my individual tweet with one URL and they add words to it, that whole tweet is now published by Twitter because they've added their editorialization to it, in which case they should be responsible for what you say as well in that capacity. They shouldn't be doing this. Reform of 230 is the right move. Fox News goes on to say the New York Post ran an explosive report that purported to show emails from Hunter Biden that linked his father to Ukraine business dealings. A bunch of Republicans came out, called it out. Right. This is election interference, and we're 19 days out from an election, Cruz said. He's correct. I completely agree with this. The fact that Twitter shut down this story, there are numerous polls that have come out now showing that if the American people knew about this scandal, there was a slight percentage shift away from Biden, likely enough to have given Donald Trump a hard victory. Trump, who has refused to concede the election and has a legal team investigating wide allegations of fraud, has maintained a fraught relationship with these companies. So I read this already. He says, Trump tweeted, therefore, it is if the very dangerous and unfair Section 230 is not completely terminated as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, I will be forced to unequivocally veto the bill, which, when sent to the very beautiful Resolute desk, take back America now. Thank you. Facebook did not immediately respond to an email from Fox News. Let me tell you what we're looking at here. Maybe Trump just wants an excuse to veto the defense spending bill. How many populists are going to laugh and cheer for that? No, I know. Conservatives and right-wing populists like the military, want them funded. But at the same time, I was reading a great tweet from Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, where they talk about when Republicans realize how much money is going to the military and where it's going, about half say, nah, we got to cut that out. Because I think most people, rational people, conservative or otherwise, not the far leftists, will agree having a strong and powerful military is a good thing. But when you got to look at where that bloat's coming from, or where that bloat's going, right? Because what happens is someone gets a no bid contract. The government says, here's $1 million to go build a bunch of houses. And they're like, that's Biden Inc. Joe Biden's brother started building houses in Iraq, making millions of dollars, conveniently around the time that Joe Biden came into office and was overseeing the military operations in Iraq. It was just a big scheme, in my opinion, to funnel money to their buddies. And yeah, probably a bad idea. I'll tell you this. I think our military is great. I think the Marines are awesome. I think every branch is awesome. Space Force. How cool is that? I love the fact that we have people who are willing to serve this country and sign, their several years of their life to the betterment of all of us. But I don't like these excursions into these other countries for what? Nation building? I think most people don't like that. So I'd love to see good funding for our military. But I want to see our military doing infrastructure projects, going and fixing pipes and flints, securing our borders, building roads, not building roads in Afghanistan and Iraq. So anyway, you get me going on a foreign policy tangent. The point is, if Trump vetoes the National Defense Authorization Act, I don't know. I mean, I might just laugh, and that might be the real excuse, because I don't think they're going to terminate 230, but we'll see what's more important to them, their Section 230 or funding the war machine. I have to go back to what I said early on. The reason why this is dangerous and it's a mistake is they want to get rid of 230, okay? If give YouTube an excuse to say, oh no, now we can't allow anybody to speak up. We have to ban all these channels unless you're approved by us. They've already been moving in that direction. Twitter will cease to exist except for all the blue checks. That's right. What will happen is Twitter will likely say, if you have a verification, we've cleared you, and then you'll assume, like they'll give you a contract about liability or something. For regular people, they'll say, we're not going to risk liability for a random user who just signed up today. Most websites will have some kind of filtration sign-up process where you can't post, but there will be some kind of mid-tier social media system where only the certified, verified people of note will be allowed to speak. That means channels like mine would never exist. Well, absolutely. Because I was live streaming during Occupy, and then I only kind of weaseled my way into that corporate world to get that blue check. You want to know how I got verified on Twitter? I'll tell you the secret. Vice called Twitter and said, verify him. Boom. It was done. That's it. That was it. Maybe they'll take it away from me. I don't know. That was what happened. It was, I was at a party once in San Francisco, and they said, most of these journalists, it's like their company will call and say, can we get them verified? There you go. And they'll do it. Now, there's a good reason for this, though. It's not. I don't want to say it's nefarious. I'm just saying it's nepotistic in a sense. But it does make sense. Hear me out. The idea was that journalists who are sharing information who aren't verified, people won't trust it. And so they wanted you to know this person is who they say they are when they put in their bio, they work for this news company, so you can trust what they say. I'll give you an example that affected me and why I ended up getting verified. I was covering a criminal trial and a judge issued his verdict. I ran out of the courtroom, pulled up my phone. I tweeted breaking news. Bond said it $1 million or whatever. And the response I got was, can we get verification on this? We don't know who this person is. Who do they work for? After I got verified, people said, this person's gone through a process. I'm more likely to trust them. I'm not saying it's a good thing all around. I'm just saying that it does help when you're doing journalism because people see that badge as some kind of, well, how do I put it? Twitter's endorsement, I guess we can say, that they've vetted you. There's pros and there's cons to it. But anyway, let's read some more. They say the Department of Justice sent a letter to Congress in October that advocated for changes to the 25-year-old law that essentially protects these companies from being sued by content posted on their sites. The DOJ's letter, which was addressed to several congressional leaders, read, today's large online platforms hold tremendous power over the information and views available to the American people. It is therefore critical that they be honest and transparent with users about how they use that power. Zuckerberg and Dorsey, respectively, talked about the law in front of the Senate committee in October. Section 230 is the most important law protecting internet speech. In removing Section 230, we will remove speech from the internet, Dorsey said during the testimony. Jack Dorsey is correct. There will be no more user reviews. There will be no more, like Amazon book reviews. None of that. These companies will say, we can't allow anyone to post without editorial filtration. And that's where things get creepy. I think the internet is good. I think YouTube is a good thing. I think there are problems with it. For all of the things I've complained about with censorship, I always say, but think about this. YouTube might censor people. We have to keep fighting to make sure we can protect speech and allow all ideas to be challenged and brought up. But YouTube's an overwhelmingly good for all of us. The fact that I'm allowed to speak as I am, they'd never let me do this. When I worked for Fusion, they basically were like, report, social justice or have a nice day. They didn't say it like that. They said, Tim, side with the audience. And I said, I'm going to tell the truth. And they were like, okay, well, do your thing, I guess. If it wasn't for YouTube, I would not be here. You would not hear from me. You'd get nothing but mainstream leftists, whatever. I don't know what's going to happen. And I say that a million times. But I can tell you there are some good things coming out of potentially getting rid of Section 230. Manchin, Ocasio-Cortez more active on Twitter than anything else. And he's right. One of the problems that we have is that politics is becoming clapback culture war. Ocasio-Cortez, all right, I'll tell you this. She has my utmost respect for her ability to, her PR skills as a millennial influencer are, just the best. Look, you might want to hear bad things about somebody all the time. No. Look, you got to recognize this. 10 million followers. She knows how to be a political influencer. She has done such a good job of doing this. And now she's in Congress. But that's the problem. I got no issue with a political influencer who's able to rile people up and clap back at Republicans and do all that stuff. Congratulations. But the fact that she's in Congress is where things get bad. This kind of culture we're building, the political culture we're building, where we're going to have people like, we're going to get Instagram influencers in Congress being like, yo, AOC, she was at his party, right, man? It was so dumb. She was trying to play beer pong and she lost. Why would you vote for that? That's where we're headed. I know I'm exaggerating. But we're literally getting to the point where AOC, like you may have seen that exchange between her and the head of ICE. I think it was ICE, where she was like, legal asylees are not committing a crime. And then the dude's like, section, whatever of the law of entering the country illegally. If you want to be a refugee, you come to the border and you apply. You get these emotional, nonsensical arguments. You get AOC led the charge, getting Amazon booted from New York City. She went down to the protests in the financial district. She led the charge, even though it wasn't her district, because it was clapback social media influencer, man. She was going on and saying, yo, what up? Economic populist here. Boom, get out, Amazon. Cost them 25 to 40,000 jobs. I'm not an Amazon fan. So when she comes out and criticizes Amazon for making massive profits, I completely agree. I think Tucker Carlson did too. Hannity disagreed. I don't like the idea that small businesses are being destroyed. I'm actually a bit of an economic populist as well. And I think it's funny because I think Steve Bannon talks about that. And it's like, I guess that's the issue with the populace in general. It's all about, can we help the working class people and not the establishment elites? The left and the right have a different view of how they get there. I think one of the bigger problems is on the right, you've got people who are like, here's how we get there through hard work, dedication, and a slightly, freer market. They're not all laissez-faire capitalists. But then you have on the left, Ocasio-Cortez, clap back at the Republicans. That's not going to help us understand and solve these problems. So I think, ultimately what it comes down to is what we're building right now, what I'm worried about is that with social media as it stands, we are going to get influencer politics, which is a bad thing, which is why getting rid of Twitter might be a good thing. I joked about it in the beginning, but Twitter's awful. But we need people to be able to communicate, and we need to be able to communicate openly and fairly about all ideas. The problem is Twitter has strict editorial guidelines. I don't believe they should have these protections. I should be allowed to criticize any idea without fear of being banned. If they're going to be shielded from liability, they shouldn't be allowed to editorialize by posting things to my content, which they've done. They shouldn't be allowed to curate, which they do, but they should be allowed to moderate. The problem is they claim this is objectionable and this isn't. Well, that shouldn't be allowed. Moderation should, in my opinion, specifically be legal or illegal. Yep, I said it. And guess what? If you don't like someone posting pictures of nudity or whatever, block. You have a block button. That's on you. They could potentially do the not safe for work filter thing, but that's the real solution. Hopefully, they don't actually repeal 230. I don't think it's likely because that would destroy all of these companies and the internet as we know it. But I don't know. Maybe Trump vetoes the NDAA and then we laugh about it because that's a smack in the face to the military-industrial complex. I'm not going to complain, right? So I'll take what I can get. I want the military to be funded. I want these guys to get their salaries. That's the big fear I have about vetoing the NDAA. It's the National Defense Authorization Act, so it might result in, service members not getting paid. I'm not entirely sure, but we don't want that. We don't want that. What we don't want is massive waste, bloat, and no bid contract trash, nation building garbage. So I'll tell you what. Bring it on, Trump. I'll leave it there. Next segment's going to be at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. It is a different channel from this one. I'm not kidding. Here's what you do right now. First, hit that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already, but go up to the URL bar, type in youtube.com/Timcast. And then as soon as you press enter, boom, new channel, different from this one. I'll be there at 4 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.